The jungle of Verexa 9 didn't welcome strangers. It swallowed them. Thick vines climbed ancient trees. Creatures with glowing eyes moved silently through the undergrowth. The sky never fully cleared, always a mix of green fog and humid rain. And somewhere deep in that wild maze, the apex predator hunted. Locals called it the Calor beast, a massive blue-furred creature with sharp fangs, gold eyes, and the strength to crush armored vehicles. No one survived if it chose to attack, until now. Lieutenant Evan Cole, a human, scout from Earth Command, crouched beside a small stream, his boots soaked, his armor scratched. He had been lost in this jungle for 3 days after his ship was shot down. Food was low. His weapon's battery was dying. But he wasn't afraid. Not yet. He had grown up tracking wolves back on Earth. And now, something was tracking him. He could feel it. Unseen. High above on a tree branch. Shalia, a silver-haired alien girl with tribal tattoos, watched him closely. Her people were native to this world. She had followed his trail from the crash site, curious, cautious, and ready to warn the jungle if he turned violent. He hadn't. Instead of attacking wildlife, he fed smaller creatures. He moved slowly, never carelessly. And twice now, he had passed by Calor tracks. Without panic. That made her curious. No outsider moved through this forest with such calm. Suddenly, the ground shifted near Evan's left. Leaves rustled. He turned, fast, raising his weapon, just in time to lock eyes with a Calor cub, not fully grown but already the size of a large dog. It stared at him, growling softly. He didn't fire. He didn't move. Easy, he whispered. The cub growled again but didn't run. Then, the brush behind it moved, and the mother appeared, towering, fierce, silent. From above, Shalia's heart raced. She had seen the Calor beast rip apart invaders in seconds. This man was about to die. But he didn't back away. Instead, Evan did something insane. He knelt down, lowered his weapon, and held out a flat hand toward the cub. Shalia almost called out, but something stopped her. The cub stepped closer. The mother growled low, but didn't attack. Then the cub nudged Evan's hand. The beast. Let him live. Shalia's breath caught in her throat. Impossible. The Calor never trusted outsiders. Not even her kind could approach the young without being tested. But this, human, this stranger, the jungle's deadliest creature, had just accepted him. Later that night, Evan built a small fire near the edge of a cliff. He sat quietly, carving a small stick, eyes watching the stars above. He didn't know he was being watched again. Shalia stood at the edge of the trees, her heart pounding. Maybe he wasn't like the others. Maybe the jungle had chosen him, and maybe, just maybe, she could too. The fire crackled softly in the center of the clearing. Lieutenant Evan Cole sat cross-legged beside it, his helmet off, head tilted up toward the jungle's dark canopy. A single light from his survival pack cast a soft glow around him. Nearby, the cub, the same blue-striped Calor that had approached him, lay curled near a mossy rock, watching him curiously. The mother beast had disappeared into the trees, but she hadn't gone far. Evan could feel her, still watching, still deciding. On a high branch above, Shalia stayed hidden. Her silver hair caught bits of moonlight and her orange skin blended with the thick vines. She had seen many humans crash here. They burned trees, shot animals, and always died within days. But this one, he was different. He had sat still while the predator stared him down. He had lowered his weapon, not raised it. And now the cub stayed close to him, like a shadow that refused to leave. Evan poked at the fire, then reached slowly into his bag. He took out a protein ration bar, unwrapped it, and broke off a small piece. Holding it in his open palm, he extended it toward the cub. The cub sniffed the air, then inched forward and took it. Softly, carefully. Evan smiled. You've got guts, little one. From the shadows, Shalia's eyes widened. Even I can't get that close. The jungle didn't tame easily. Even her tribe respected the Kalor and never touched their young. And yet this outsider, this human, was sitting beside the predator's child, feeding it like a forest pet. Was it luck? No. It was something else. Suddenly a sharp rustling echoed. Through the trees, the cub growled and backed toward Evan, ears raised. Evan stood quickly, rifle in hand, but didn't aim yet. He turned in a slow circle, senses alert. Then the sound stopped. Out of the brush stepped two armed figures. Human scavengers wearing scavenged armor and carrying cheap blasters. They didn't see Shalia above. But she saw them. One of the men grinned. Didn't think anyone else survived the crash. Evan didn't relax. Stay back. The second man raised his weapon slightly. Easy, soldier. We just want supplies. Evan's eyes narrowed. I don't have enough for myself. That's fine, the first one said, stepping forward. You won't be needing them. The cub snarled loudly. Then everything happened. Fast, a massive shape slammed down from the trees behind the scavengers. The mother Kalor. Her roar was thunder. Both men turned. Too late. One was flung across the clearing like a rag doll. The other screamed and dropped his weapon as the beast stood over him, teeth bared. Evan didn't move. He didn't run. He simply turned and shielded the cub. Shalia watched in frozen shock. The predator was protecting him. Even now, after noise, fire, and threat, it didn't hurt the human. Instead, it looked to him for calm, and he gave it. Evan gently placed a hand on the cub's back, whispering, "It's okay. It's over." The second scavenger crawled backward, sobbing, and vanished into the trees. The mother didn't chase. She simply turned and stared at Evan. Shalia held her breath. Evan stepped forward and bowed slightly. Thank you. That night, as silence returned to the jungle, Shalia finally stepped out of hiding. She walked slowly into the light of Evan's campfire. He looked up, startled, then relaxed. You've been watching me, he said. She nodded. I've never seen anything like that. He smiled softly. Neither have I. The firelight flickered across Shalia's face as she stepped into the clearing. Evan stood still, not raising his weapon. The cub sat beside him, staring at the new figure, with a quiet growl, but the mother beast made no move. She watched from the shadows, calm and still, as if she already understood this meeting was important. Shalia's heart pounded in her chest. She had approached humans before, but always from a distance, always in secret. This was the first time one stood still and waited for her. She stopped just a few steps away. You didn't run, she said softly. Evan gave a small smile. Should I have? She looked him up and down. Most humans would have. He nodded. I'm not most humans. They stood in silence. The jungle around them buzzed with low sounds, chirps, distant growls, and the rustling of life. Yet the space between them felt louder than anything else. Shalia folded her arms. Her voice was lower now. Why didn't the Kalor kill you? Evan looked over at the cub, then to the tree line where the mother crouched. I don't know, he said. Maybe it saw I wasn't afraid. Maybe it saw I didn't want to hurt its young. He paused. Or maybe it saw something no one else ever does. Shalia tilted her head. And what's that? He looked straight into her eyes. That I mean no harm, even when I have every reason to. Her breath caught. No one had ever said words like that to her. Not her tribe. Not the elders. Not even the other jungle scouts. She had always been taught to expect fear or hatred from outsiders. But this human, he spoke with gentleness. Like he saw her as more than just a native or a watcher in the trees. She looked away, trying to calm the storm inside her. You risked your life for that cub, she whispered. I would have done the same for anyone. No, you wouldn't. Evan gave a half smile. Maybe not, but he trusted me. That was enough. Shalia moved closer. The cub sniffed her foot, then returned to Evan's side, tail flicking. She knelt down, brushing her hand across its soft blue fur. It didn't pull away, neither did Evan. She looked up at him again. "You're not like the others." He shrugged. "I've been told that." She reached up and gently touched the edge of his shoulder armor. Her fingers traced the scratches on the metal. "Most soldiers shoot first. I only shoot when there's no other way." The Kalor mother let out a low sound, almost a sigh, and disappeared into the jungle. Shalia stood slowly. "You don't belong to this planet, but it seems the jungle has accepted you." Evan looked around the clearing, then back to her. "What about you?" She blinked. "What do you mean?" He took a step forward, just one, and said gently, "Have you accepted me?" Shalia stared at him. Her throat tightened, then she gave the smallest nod. Yes. Night fell again on the jungle of Verexa 9. Stars blinked softly above the thick canopy, and bioluminescent plants glowed along the forest floor like tiny lanterns. Evan added one last stick to the fire, and the flames flickered warm orange light across the clearing. Shalia sat across from him now, not in the shadows, not watching from the trees, but beside the fire, her legs crossed, her long silver hair loose over one shoulder. She looked less like a jungle scout and more like someone trying to remember what peace felt like. They hadn't spoken for a while, but it wasn't an awkward silence. It was the kind that said everything. The cub rested between them, head on its paws, breathing softly. The mother Kalor was gone again, maybe nearby, maybe not, but neither of them feared her return. If she wanted Evan dead, he would already be gone. Instead, she had left her child with him. That trust meant more than words. Evan watched Shalia from across the fire, the way the light touched her cheek, the way her eyes flicked to his, then away again. He cleared his throat. "Back on Earth, people don't believe in this kind of thing." She looked up. "What thing?" He smiled faintly. "A predator, trusting a soldier, a girl from another world sitting beside a man trained to shoot anything that moves." Shalia lowered her gaze. "They wouldn't believe me either. My people are raised to stay hidden. Keep to ourselves. Survive first. Everything else is weakness." "Is that why you stayed in the trees at first?" She nodded. "I was waiting for you to fail, or turn violent, like the others." Evan tilted his head. "But I didn't." "No," she said softly. "You sat. You fed the cub. You waited." He reached across the fire slowly, carefully, not to grab, not to startle, but to offer. His hand hovered in the space between them. She hesitated. Her people didn't touch, not unless it meant something. But this time, she wanted to. Her hand lifted, fingers curling into his palm. Warm, real, honest. The moment their hands met, something shifted. The jungle around them seemed to still. Even the wind paused. The fire popped gently. It felt like the world was breathing with them. Shalia's voice shook slightly. "Why do you trust me?" Evan didn't let go. "Because I saw you watching long before you stepped out. You could have left me, let me die, but you didn't." She looked at him. "That doesn't make me safe." "No," he agreed, "but it makes you worth knowing." They sat there in the quiet, hands joined, surrounded by the life of a dangerous world, and yet neither had ever felt safer. Shalia looked down at their hands. "My tribe won't understand this." Evan smiled. "Most of Earth wouldn't either." "So, what does that make us?" He looked at her gently. Something new. Far away, a deep howl echoed through the trees. The jungle hadn't changed, but they had. And for the first time in both their lives, they weren't walking it alone. The next morning, the jungle was quiet, but not in a peaceful way. The birds weren't singing. The breeze had stopped. Even the small animals had gone silent. Evan noticed it first. He stood, up slowly, eyes scanning the tree line. The cub sensed it too. Its ears twitched and it hid behind him. Shalia stepped forward, her hand resting lightly on her curved blade. Then, they heard it. A whistle. Sharp. Purposeful. Shalia's eyes widened. That's not jungle wildlife. From the trees, a dozen figures appeared, silent, painted in dark colors with cloaks made of leaves and bark. Velmoran scouts, her people. They moved like shadows, surrounding the camp. Bows drawn, spears raised. At their center stood Elder Varn, tall and scarred, his eyes cold and unblinking. Shalia stepped forward quickly, both hands raised. Wait! He's not. Silence, Varn barked. He stared at Evan, then down at the cub. By his leg. You dared to touch the Kalor young? Evan didn't flinch. I didn't harm him. Varn pointed his spear. You should not even be alive. Shalia moved between them. He saved the cub. He fed it. Even the mother spared him. Whispers rippled through the scouts. That's impossible. No human has ever. Varn raised his hand. He is dangerous, and now, he has corrupted one of our own. He glared at Shalia. You sat with him. You touched him. Her face flushed, but she stood tall. I chose to. Varn's expression turned harsh. Then you have betrayed our blood. Another scout stepped forward and raised his weapon. The cub growled loudly and placed itself between Evan and the soldiers. Evan stepped in front of it again. Enough, he said. Calm. Even now. I didn't come here to hurt anyone. I crashed. I survived. And he nodded to Shalia. She kept me alive. Varn laughed bitterly. You speak of peace while standing beside a beast and touching one of our women? She's not yours, Evan said sharply. She's herself. Shalia looked at him with wide eyes. No one had ever spoken about her like that. Not as a thing. But as a person, then something happened no one expected. The mother Kalor stepped out from the shadows. The scouts turned instantly, readying their weapons. Hold! Shalia yelled. But it wasn't needed. The massive beast walked calmly, beside Evan and her cub. She didn't attack. She didn't growl. She stood beside him, protective, and the jungle watched. Varn lowered his weapon slowly. For the first time, doubt flickered in his eyes. The jungle chooses no one, he whispered, but even he didn't believe his own words. The scouts backed away slightly. Shalia stood at Evan's side. Elder, if the Kalor trusts him, how can we not? Varn stared for a long moment, then he turned and walked away. This isn't over, he said, and the others followed. When they were gone, Evan exhaled. You okay? He asked. Shalia nodded. They won't forget this. But, will they come back? She looked toward the trees. Yes. Evan looked at her. Then I won't leave you. She smiled faintly. I was hoping you'd say that. The jungle never slept. Even at night things moved. Creatures, shadows, threats. But tonight, it wasn't the animals that made Shalia nervous. It was her own people. Evan sat beside the fire, sharpening a broken piece of metal into a knife. He hadn't spoken much since the scouts left. The Kalor cub lay curled near his boot, sleeping. The mother beast was gone again, but Shalia knew she never wandered far. Shalia paced quietly nearby, her sharp eyes flicking toward every sound. They'll come back, she said. Maybe not tonight, but soon. Evan nodded. Yeah. She paused. You could still leave. The extraction beacon on your pack works. If you call for help, they'll send a ship. Evan looked up at her. I'm not leaving without you. She turned sharply. You'd stay here, even if it gets you killed? He didn't blink. Yes. Her heart twisted. She had seen warriors run at the first sign of danger. She had watched her own people abandon each other. But he stayed. For Suddenly a sound cut through the jungle, a high-pitched pulse. She froze. That's not a jungle sound. Evan stood fast. It's a tracker pulse, military grade. Within seconds, beams of blue light sliced through the trees. Velma ran. Hunters returning. But this time not to threaten, to eliminate. One of them raised a stun rifle and aimed at Evan. Shalia jumped in front of him. Stop! He's poisoned your mind, one of the hunters growled. We'll save you both, by force. Another hunter fired. The shot hit Shalia in the side. She cried out and collapsed. Shalia! Evan dropped beside her, pulling her behind a rock. Her skin sparked where the stun blast had hit. She was still alive but groaning in pain. Evan grabbed his handmade blade. He didn't care if it was small. He would fight. He stood and faced the Y. Hunters, chest rising and falling. If you want her, you go through me. The hunters raised their weapons. One fired, and then everything stopped. A blue blur slammed into the attacker, the Kalor mother. She hit like thunder, sending 2 hunters flying into the trees. Another tried to fire, but the cub leapt from behind Evan, knocking the weapon from his hands. Screams echoed through the clearing. The jungle came alive. One by one, the hunters fell, disarmed, wounded, terrified. The Kalor mother didn't kill them. She didn't have to. She stood between Evan and the Velmarins like a shield of nature itself. And then she did something no one had ever seen. She walked over and lowered her massive head to Evan's chest. Evan, heart still racing, gently rested his hand on her fur. Shalia, still on the ground, watched through blurry eyes. She had heard stories of the jungle choosing a protector, a guardian, not of blood, but of spirit. But she had never believed it. Until now. The remaining hunters fled into the trees, defeated not just by the beast but by something greater, by a bond they could not understand. Evan rushed back to Shalia, lifting her carefully. I've got you. She blinked up at him. You were going to die for me. He smiled, holding her close. Not if the jungle had anything to say about it. Morning light spilled through the thick canopy above. Golden rays touched the clearing where the fire had long burned out, where blood, mud, and ash now marked the ground. But in the middle of it all, something gentle stirred. Shalia opened her eyes slowly. Evan was right beside her, sitting on the mossy ground, leaning against a fallen tree. His hand was still holding hers. He hadn't slept, not really, just watched over her like a sentry, through the night. She blinked. You're still here. He smiled faintly. Told you I wasn't going anywhere. She slowly sat up, wincing from the stun wound. The cub approached, nosing her knee with a soft purr. The mother Kalor stood at the edge of the clearing, silent, powerful, watching as if she understood this moment belonged to someone else. Shalia looked at Evan. Really looked. His armor was scratched. His face was tired. And still, he was. Calm still, he was kind. I always thought my place was in this jungle, she whispered. Hidden, alone, a watcher of others. She touched her own arm, where her people's tattoo was faded and scarred from the blast. They said this world was our mother, but now... She turned to Evan. Her hand reached up, slowly, shakily, and rested on his face. Her thumb traced the line of his jaw. Now she smiled. Now I think you're my home. Evan froze for a moment. No one had ever looked at him like that. Not even on Earth. You don't have to say that, he whispered. I want to, she said. You stayed when you didn't have to. You fought when I was too weak to stand. And you didn't run even when the jungle turned on you. She leaned her forehead against his. This world taught me to fear everything. But you taught me how to trust. He closed his eyes, then whispered, Then come with me. Her eyes widened. Leave Verexa 9? Come back to Earth. Or wherever. You want, we'll figure it out, together. She laughed softly, voice shaking. I've never even seen the stars beyond this sky. He stood and offered his hand. Then let me show them to you. At the edge of the trees, the Kalor mother gave a quiet growl, deep and low, but not threatening. Shalia turned and bowed deeply. "Thank you," she whispered. The beast blinked once, then it turned and disappeared into the jungle. Hours later, the sky opened wide as the evac ship descended. This time, Evan activated the beacon. As the ramp lowered, Earth soldiers stepped out, confused. Surprised to see an alien girl standing hand in hand with one of their own, none dared speak, because the look on Evan's face said, "She is not your prisoner. She is mine to protect." And the look on hers said, "I am no longer afraid." As they stepped onto the ship, Shalia looked back at the jungle one last time. She had been born there, hunted there, hardened there, but she wasn't of it anymore, because home wasn't a place, it was a person, and he had chosen her, and he had.